Shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live. Yes, I am Iggy Garcia. Ignacio Nacho, or whatever you want to call me. It's okay with me. My friend Adriana Arts is actually on the radio broadcast of the show. So, and I'm going to do some adjustment really quick here. Some adjustments because I don't want to feedback into the microphone with myself. You won't be able to hear her live stream. Those of you who are tuned on the radio will be able to hear her. So she'll be asking questions at the time, and then we'll repeat this so the live stream people can figure out what I'm saying. I'm also going to watch from my phone the questions that are coming through, because I know you all have a lot of questions about the last days of our journey to North Dakota, out west there. And so,
thank you. You're kind of breaking up on my end, so I can only
am I breaking up on your end?
What you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, that's possible.
A little bit.
How's that? Is that better? Maybe let me try something here. We're trying to adjust audio portions of our show here. 1 second, folks. Connecting a little bit, getting a little power more juice. Can you guys hear me on the live stream? You know, I was trying to read here as you're going through there. Can't quite see the screen. Let me go to my phone here. Let's just give me a little. So everybody can see me? Everybody's okay? Everybody can kind of someone give me a thumbs up. Can you hear me? Because I'm going to look down at my other phone. Okay, very good. Sounds like everybody. Most people won't be able to hear Adriana. She's actually a radio portion of our show. So, but, you know, we'll make it work. I'll ask her to ask some questions. And then I'm going to start off by saying thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedules to, you know, just hang out with me for a little bit, and so I can share what was going on in my perception and my point of view, what happened, and how I saw things. So most of you know, most of you who are in my circle, small circle, know that one day I just was kind of fed up knowing there was things going on in North Dakota and all that area, and that there was some things happening to people, and I didn't really know what was happening because the news wasn't covering it. They weren't really showing, you know, in detail what was going on. But sure, we're busy with this election between Donald Trump, you know, Hillary Clinton, you know, Gary Johnson and Bill Stein, and you know, that took up the airwaves and the media waves and the newspaper, you know, black ink on white paper, and that's kind of what was going on. And then one day, you know, I just saw this video where people were beating the crap out of people who didn't have any really, you know, protection, and I wasn't sure what was happening there, and I just inquired a little bit more. And the next day, I heard this voice that says, "Nacho, you have to go." And I took that, so I have to go to North Dakota. And so I made the decision. It wasn't really that quick. I made the decision to say, I'm going to go, and I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to go see firsthand what's really happening. That was the just why I went. And you know, it's nothing. Whatever you've seen, you know, it's not like that. A good reminder, it's just like take a little box and you point right at that little area right there, and you concentrate on that, and all you see is just that little area. But around it, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. It's never reported, never shown, never shared. There are people from all walks of life here present and sharing. And, you know, doing what they can to help these people. One of the was that I heard when I arrived there was the first call. The first call answered. Again, this is from the natives who live on the reservation, is who are there, were the hippies. Plain and simple, just like that. They'd said, "We want to thank the hippies for coming." They didn't mean that in a disrespectful way. They meant that in a way that was very honorable. These young people, these old people, these people who just they travel and they know how to live off land and do these kind of things. These young people just put these little camps together very quick and very fast. I was fortunate enough to be invited to a place called Sacred Stone Camp. Sacred Stone Camp, actually a camp where you can actually stay there and help build things, see people's, and cook, build shelters, and just help everybody in some capacity. And or you just pray, just camp there, whatever. My whole intention is to go in however I can, but I ask my friends to support this cause. I ask people to donate, financially. I ask people to donate with food, with clothing and all kinds of things. You know what? Those of you who helped and those of you who wish you could have helped, I'm thankful and grateful. There's so much to talk about. And I'm going to look here on the phone really quick and see. And, Adriana's on the line. So, Adriana, have any questions for me?
You're still cutting out on my end, so I'm not hearing everything you say. But I'll trust that the people on the live feed are. But I just would like you to start really with your journey once you got close to the camp and what it was like getting into the camp, because there were so many threads and posts from people that I had saw where the roads were blocked and you needed to find alternate routes, and people were really worried about how to even get in there and which way to go. So if you can share what it was like pulling up to there in the very beginning and getting to the camp.
Sure. Adriana was asking me a question about what it was like to get to the camp, and what led up to getting there, and this I'll just shorten it real quick. And if the roads were closed, of the accessibility. Okay, this is what I've discovered. Okay, a lot of the things that you guys talked about, you probably read on the news about things being down and closed, the roads, are half true. There's partially true. And a lot of these roads are closed down because there's actually pipeline runs through some of these roads, these areas. Now, the road we were on 1806 there's two different ways to get to it, several different ways, but the way we're going, I'll tell you the story. We're traveling, and I was supposed to take exit 155, and I was supposed to take 156, and I took 155. 155 would take us to where the road ends up being closed. That's where the video is of where the armored cars and the cars are burnt and burned. That's where it would end up taking it. We took that road, not realizing that that's where we were going. We were driving. We saw these signs, closed, only open to, traffic, local traffic. Anybody else wasn't allowed through. But we marched through. We kept going. We kept moving through and kept going. And, every time we got closer and closer, and we knew we were getting closer, there were more signs. The sheriff passed us. The Ohio Highway Patrol passed us as well. That was bizarre. And, came to a place where we saw on the right, there was a dirt road, and there was some, I'm not sure who they were at that point. But we came to this one sign, was a lit sign, and it said, "Road closed 2 miles ahead." And there was a feeling of, we better not go down that road. So we didn't. We decided to avoid the road. It was probably a good thing, too, because you don't know what would have happened to us, especially, with myself and my two compadres with me in the car. One being an undocumented illegal alien, which is funny. But I'll get to that story later. And my follow, And so we turned left down this little dirt road. There was a couple houses, and we're texting Mark, Adriana, and Mary and David. I'm texting them. You guys have an alternative route? Can you guys on the map? Our GPS wasn't working. I didn't know why our technology wasn't working. So we turned left and went down this road, and we're sitting there for probably a good 20 minutes, and all of a sudden I see this car in my rearview mirror coming towards us. I'm going, oh boy, what's this? And this little old Indian man, I rolled my window. He rolled down his window. He looks at me. He goes, "You don't need to say anything. I know where you're going." Just like that. I was like, whoa. It was like something in a movie, kind of like, it was an angel. I'm just going to say how I feel it was. He was sent there. That's just plain and simple. He said, follow me. So we followed him. And I'm going, and we're like thinking, well, maybe he's just going to, maybe he's not real. Maybe. So he drives down the main road we were back on, and he goes down the dirt road, and he stops by which turns out to be the Border Patrol. And I look over, and I'm going, oh, man. And my friend, oh, my God, this Border Patrol, he's going to tell us out. The border, that's what he does. My friend got a little nervous and no papers. And the Border Patrol walks up to us and goes, hey, how's it going, guys? I've only been here 6 hours, so just of everything that's going on and blah, blah. But the other guy has been here longer than me. And he goes, where are you guys going? I said, well, we're following our friend. He's trying to list to the other side. This road closed, so we couldn't sway. We didn't say anything about going to Standing Rock. We didn't think that might have been a good idea to say we're going to Standing Rock. But we had all these supplies in the back of our trucks, and I had to put them all in garbage bags, like those garbage bags, those white ones, red ties, so it looked like trash. It looked like maybe just going to go throw my trash out in the rural areas. So that kind of played into our advantage, and there wasn't really anything out of the ordinary. And my friends in the back, they didn't even know he was back there looking in. They didn't see him. He had fog medicine on. So he walks over to the old man. He comes back, and he goes, well, he thinks you're going down the road. And I'm like, yeah, cool. He knows where he's from this area. And he goes, and who's your on the other side? Well, and then we discussed, no, he's a friend. We have friends on the other side we're going to meet. Like, oh, okay. So it was like a lot of circle talk a little bit between us and the patrol. Finally, he gets back over and he goes, just follow him. He knows where he's going. So like, and he drives really fast. So you got to keep with him. So he started going. So we went and we drove down the road. This is like a 40-minute trip here. So the guy goes, well, you'll probably get out by other patrols. You're going to have to talk to them. So they let us through. So that's post one. Oh my goodness. This journey is really turned into a really amazing thing. So we're driving, following our buddy. He's going pretty fast because that's kind of, you drive that way, I guess. And we to the next post, and it's probably about 15, 20 minutes later. And the sheriff, it was the Dakota sheriff, the North Dakota sheriff, like, what you guys doing? And he goes, you guys can't go down this road. This is where the pipeline runs. We actually saw the pipeline, and it was after it had been buried, and see it from where we were at. No one's allowed access down here. So, but I'll tell you how to get there. So the sheriff told us how to get over. He told the old man. The old man already knew. So we went down to this town. I think it was Joplin. I think it was called. He says, you went to Joplin. He goes, follow him. He knows where he's going. So we're driving and we're laughing, giggling because we're, finally we come over the top of the pipeline. Actually over the pipeline. We're actually on top of it. We're like looking, and it was just kind of, oh my God. Like in the thick of everything. We're like, there's security everywhere. Like we're driving this stuff. And he finally pulls over and he goes, he waves to him. He's like, he doesn't talk, just does emotions, a little guy. So he pulled up and he goes, you guys think you got to know me, I know where I'm going. And we're like just laughing. We know where to see you. So we drove for like another 30 minutes. And he goes, we to the place. He said, that black top there, that's where you want to go. He goes, do you want to go to Canada or do you want to go to Canada? You want to go, where do you go? So we're on the secrets. Oh, you got to turn left here. So we took pictures with him and we thanked him. I gave him some sage, because I didn't have anything to back give him. But it was just it was one of those movie moments, that I did not expect to have. Okay, Adriana, it was just like I had no clue that was going to play out like that. And then we were, that's what we talked about. Then, 30, 40 minutes we were driving down the road because that's about how long it took to get to everywhere. And we came to this point on Route 24. Okay, and there was these battery of like police stations, like big, like these are stations like they had their mobile stations, and I'm going, oh my God, what is going on here? You don't get a lot of information doesn't come out, and I'll explain to you why here in a little bit. We looked and we got there and they're waving us, and they're like going which direction to go. The casino's on the right, I didn't know until later, and then Rock is on the left. We almost made it to Standing Rock, but I saw sacred stone, so I was like, turn here, stand right here. And then you're driving down another dirt road, and then you come up to this place. It's a huge like camp dome, like a big dome that they had made. It's a point for sacred stone. And the first thing they ask you, like, are you guys FBI, CIA, Feds? Where are you? Are you Doppel? Dakota pipeline access. Just nobody likes guys. It's not cool if you were for them down there. And then led us down this hill, and then you go on this hill and you go into this opening and you see all these tents. And it was just pretty intense to see all that all that stuff right in front of you. But that's kind of
good thing you got there.
Yeah, we had our little angel with us.
That's right. He was sent to you out of the middle of nowhere. But that's just proof you were meant to go and meant to find your way. So very good.
Yeah. And then
so once you
go
ahead.
Once you what?
You go ahead. I was going to ask you another question.
Yeah. Okay. Let me continue this. Once you get there, you really don't. Okay. Remember, I want everyone to understand this. Okay. I want this to be loud and clear for everybody, and the only reason I say this is they said it to us. This isn't vacation. This isn't plan to go there and just have a good time per se. You can have that within 9 fines of, I guess, at their expense, basically, is if you have a nice way to put it. But you're not there necessarily if you're going to observe one thing. These people are fighting for their rights. They're fighting for lives. They're fighting for us. They're fighting for everything that we can't possibly imagine, okay, that goes on behind closed doors, behind lack of media show. So when you get there, you become veterans very quickly. You learn very fast what you need to do, how you're supposed to behave and act. You're a guest at somebody else's land. We're on the reservation where we were. We were actually coached very quickly what to expect, what not to expect, and definitely what to expect. And I said twice is because there are infiltrators in these camps, people who pass false rumors, who make people nervous, who people are suffering from PTSD. They have counselors here for this because this is so traumatic. Some people have given everything to be here and fight for this cause. They've sold their homes, they've sold their businesses. This is not, Woodstock, as they put it to me. This is not a Woodstock, though some people act like it is. It's not Woodstock. It is the resistance. It is the last stand. That's why it's called Standing Rock. That's why you're there. You're there to stand and help and volunteer at any capacity that you can or are willing to. So there are people who are there, a peaceful heart, are willing to just pray and do. That's cool. There are people there who are really ready to sacrifice and lay down their lives at that moment and ready to take a bullet if they get to that point. And that's told to me, and I heard that, and that was ingrained in us that this is not. It could be a very dangerous place. You're there for like, oh wow, look, Indians everywhere. It's not that. It's a human battle. It's a human fight. Mm-hmm. And so when we get into the sacred fires and they talk to us, they let us know there is some risk and danger, and that not everybody that's necessarily here is a good guy. Even in the good camps, and especially in the big camp in Standing Rock, big camp, Cannonball River, and the Cannonball where we were at, not everybody there is necessarily all good people. There are people who are infiltrated, and there are people who have been put there to create and cause panic, cause remember. I've had people, the military is coming in. Did you hear? They're coming in this, and there's people, and I'm like, if I don't hear it from the elders, I don't know. You'll stop spreading rumors. They teach you how just to deflect things quickly. There are people there who like to, stir things up. All right. Question, Adriana?
After you arrived there and got down into the camp, who kind of directed you from that point on as to where you go to set up your camp, and then after you set up your own tents and everything, did you have to report to one place in particular right off the bat to kind of get briefed on how the whole camp worked?
Okay. Adriana's asking, how is the welcome committee? How are we briefed? Who tells us what to do? What do we need to do? How do we set up? I'll be frank and very honest with you. Okay? They waive the reward drill, and if you ask, they'll help you. Everybody there is not sure of anybody in a nice way, but we're trying to work through that. They're trying to process and work through that. When we get there, as far as I know, I'm just a short white guy, with a beard, looks kind of native. And I have a Mexican friend who looks more native than a white woman. Anybody who walks through there, there's always a sense of hesitation. So there is no necessarily, if you don't ask, you don't get help. Let's put it that way. So that's the way I felt personally. And so I reached out, hey, where we have donations. Oh, great for the donations. But people are so tired, people are so exhausted, and people are trying to stay so focused to their tasks that they don't really have. There's not even music playing. There's not even drumming and anything like that is going on, except for maybe in the big camp. And the camp it wasn't like that. There's even been rumors that people are being held against their will in our camp, which is not true. Those are the type of, you have to fend for yourself. You have to kind of be, like in Spanish, mosca, fly. You have to be fly, mosca. It means you got to have to move. You're going to have to kind of go into the flow yourself. Excuse me. You have to move into asking and being alert and be on your toes. And finally, we got to the main fire. We introduced ourselves, and everybody welcomed us. It was a little friendly, a little more, the leaders are there and stuff. And they just kind of told me, well, I said, where do we pitch our tent? Because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, per se, in that particular moment. I didn't agree or disagree. I wanted to respect their land because it's somebody's land. They made it very clear we were protected there because the military couldn't come there. But yet, don't be overprotected. Don't think that they can come wherever they want when it comes down to they were staying us too. Mm-hmm. So they said camp wherever you can find a spot. It was just like that. They were going to come and say, oh, yeah, Iggy, you and your group camp here, blah, blah, blah. But it was expected you were either going to be in prayer and service of some sort. You're going to be in some type of service, or you're going to be in the main camp, and you were just going to come sleep there. Adrian, let me look at some of the questions here online real quick. Mm-hmm. I believe somebody asked me a question about, did you learn anything about the United Nations or the Amnesty International being? I did hear when we were there that the United Nations sent one representative to observe. Okay, one. It wasn't a team or whatever. And Amnesty International, I know they were there. I don't know the details on that, so I can't be specific on that. And but I tell you, being there the first day, it's about acclimating yourself and getting to the moment and getting to space that you need to be. It can be very, very intimidating because you step into the wrong camp. Something that you learn very quickly. Some of the campers in there, they even restrict you're not allowed in there unless you own. It's different. It's different. It's nothing I've ever experienced in my life. And even though we're a sacred camp, I can't necessarily say I felt sacred there. I didn't feel like it. Just felt like everybody was on edge for a lot of the time. So I moved out there, not necessarily out, but I moved out of the space to see what was going on. We ended up going to Standing Rock, where it was, imagine the humanity of people that you see. And you look down onto this hill and you just see all these teepees and all these tents, all these yurts, and and all these natives, these chow tents. There's just there, and it was amazing to see everybody on the spot. And I was totally floored by that. It was just totally, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that. And I know that wasn't even the big amount of people there over a course of time, but still, it was a lot. I ended up being more involved in that camp than I was in the camp that I was in. I actually was allowed to speak to everybody on the PA system that goes around about our journey and how we got there. And like the story I told you, the Native American man, I got to share that as well. So I had my moments of sharing. It was pretty cool. Any questions, Adriana, for you?
What exactly did you find yourself being called to help with after you got set up in camp?
After I settled in, what I felt called to was there was a couple that I felt called to do when I was there, because everybody has a calling per se, and they kind of find their niche. I ended up was more about being in a sacred space in the beginning, and that worked okay for me for a while, but then I felt like I wasn't doing enough. So not necessarily in our camp, but in the other camps, I actually now help out starting generators and helping to like the dishwashing areas where they would do things. Instead of in the rack on the left, I've had in the right going out the door. Just little things like that. I helped out with ideas and things like that. But I mean, it wasn't like long term, because I wanted to keep moving and exploring and understanding and talk to everybody I could possibly talk to, just as what the field was. So my capacity was not to be me. I didn't want to be the radio guy. I didn't want to be the shaman. I didn't want to be the medicine man. I wanted to be the average person who come there just to do whatever needs to be done. I totally stripped myself of all the titles, all the privilege that I hold in my heart, and I just dropped it and I said, I'm a humble servant. I'll do whatever it takes. What do you need help with? And anytime they need help, they'd call upon you. They weren't like imposing. So I found myself times being in a lot of exploration of self-expression, of spirit, exploring with people's cultures, learning from them. It was really interesting, because I'm one of those people who really likes to get into the thick of it. I found myself finding myself getting into the thick of things slowly and in purpose, versus going, hey guys, if you need anything, I'm here. It wasn't like, it was just like, I'm going to let it be natural. I'm going to be a natural progression, natural flow. I'm going to go and, say, I'm from this organization or that organization. I became just a number, and that wasn't good. And that was important for me to just be a number and be, another human being, who's just going to fight for the rights of water and fights for the rights of those lands. And you know what? I got more out of that than anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Let's see if anybody has any other questions. I know people have a lot of questions. We'll roll down here. The call-in number, you guys, on the live stream is 646-595-3440. That's 646-595-3440. Call me. We'll take your calls and and answer your questions to the best of my ability. I know there's a lot of stuff to cover. There's a lot of things that went on, and even on the journey down, mentally, physically, spiritually, what we were going to get into, I had no clue. I absolutely had no clue what I was getting myself into. Everybody who knew me outside going in, I thought I was a little nuts, but I didn't feel nuts. I didn't feel crazy. My parents were, they were afraid for me, because everything that came out of that camp, it was everything that the media just portrayed, and it was scare tactic. If there was no violence, the media would cover it. I saw more international media. I didn't see CNN. I didn't see Fox. I didn't see MSNBC. I didn't see ABC, and any of those major networks. I didn't see any of them. I didn't see any of their little tags. I didn't run into that. But I made a decision one day that I was not going to just sit around and go to the front lines and do whatever I could. We had training going to the front line, and they trained us in how to prepare and how we actually participate in a mock drill if approached by the police. How would we blockade, lock arms, and do pyramids or whatever? It was pretty interesting. It was pretty cool. I'd never been involved in anything like that. And they want to you safe, and I've never been around people who have felony charges on them. There's a lot of people with felony charges pending. I mean, every out of 1 to 3 persons, have felony, and a lot of people if I get arrested, I go to jail 40 to 80 years. Can't get a felony on top of any charge. So it was really interesting. And then I went to front lines. Went to the front lines, and that to me was really. I had to trek up this long corridor that's filled. If you guys watch some of the videos, there's a video that I recorded about the helicopter flying over me, dusting balls over me, and there was one time I was walking on this man-made bridge, and I slipped off of it, and I landed in mud, and this mud is sucks you in. Here's your arm, right? If you hit the mud, your arm's in completely down, almost to your elbow. That's what would happen if I'd fallen in, and I'd be stuck. So somehow I landed on the water bottles that I had in my bag and got back up on the board pretty quick and made it across. And, I prayed a lot. I prayed a lot for myself because I don't think we pray for ourselves enough to protect it. And I said, God, just look out for my family, look for my friends, look out for these beautiful people. Look out for these little kids that are there. Because the day I was there, a little boy shot with a little bean bag, and it collapsed his lung. And I don't know whatever happened to him, but I guess he's recovering. But that's the kind of stuff that happened over there. Things happen. It did happen. People get shot with rubber bullets all the time. Then I make it to the bank. I'm on the other side of that. That picture where the natives are on one point of the peninsula and there's a water between them, and police are on the other side. Well, if you were on that side and back this way, I was on this bank with a whole bunch of people. We were screaming and yelling and praying, burning sage or whatever. Little kids were screaming. It was pretty intense. It got pretty wild. People getting arrested, spray mace, and there was a guy who couldn't get away. I was helping people who got hurt and who swam back this way. It was pretty intense. And then I was looking down. I was like eating a cracker, of course. I was eating. Maybe I was just nervous. And when I go, look, I went down, there's a little dot on my chest. And then the other people look, and they have little red dots on their eyes. And these little red dots were actually the sniper scopes. They had a little laser targeted on you. Pocket, it made it look like a gun. So I didn't realize this until somebody else pointed out to me. And I was just like, well, it's really, really, if something goes wrong, they could just take you out. That, I didn't even think about it in a blink of an eye. And then when you look and the sun was coming around, you could see the sun hitting their scopes and hitting their masks and their badges on their badges reflecting back. It was surreal. It was really surreal. I was like, what am I doing here? Sometimes I question, why am I here? But I know what's here because of what we had to do, the work we had to do. And I was thinking, what do these people, what do these security guards, what do these police officers, don't they have families? Don't care what's going on? It was like a big joke. It was just like, anything that you ever seen, any type of approach to the cops, don't give a rat ass about anything. It was like Paula had pointed out to me that the guy, the border patrol in the beginning, I forgot to say this, it was actually a guy who was actually on the front line, not people. And so I don't know if they moved him from there and put him in the back. He showed a picture of him. I'm like, oh my God, this guy. He was like whipping everybody, and just crazy. And and then the police. Every time the police would leave their boats and stuff, people would cheer. It wasn't really a victory cheer per se. It was just small. They couldn't really do anything. The police couldn't really do anything. I'll tell you why everybody's fighting on that particular front right there, on that little strip, that big mountain you see. That's called, I believe it's called Turtle Mountain or Turtle Hill. I'm not sure. It's one of too, but it has named turtle in it. A particular type that hit remains of 11 infant babies, Native American babies, and there's sacred pipe and elders buried there. These graves were actually desecrated by these people, these Doppel, these Dakota Pipe and Access people and the police. And it's like us going to someone's graveyard and knocking over all their tombstones or burying up all their dead people. That's the best sample I can give you. And they wanted those bones, and we still, even till when I left, they still weren't able to cross there. Question, Adriana?
Give us some little insight of the nights, because there were a lot of reports of what sounds like torture tactics that were used at nighttime all night long, as far as noises and lights and things.
Okay, Adriana just asked a question about torture attacks, if of things that happening. 100% yes. Okay, and I am a voice that at night. Okay, but before I get to that, I want to say something really quick. Winter's coming very fast to that region. The days are warm right now, but nights are super cold, and it's only fall. I struggled with the element alone. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. I'm going to go back to her question. Yes. When I got there, they had this drone flying around. Just flying around, flying. Big drone. Not a drone like you see in taking pictures. This is a big, full-size, unmanned drone that they just fly. And it just goes round and around and around. And it just, but at night, it goes around and around, and it comes down, fueled or whatever. And then it goes down lower at night, and it comes really louder. And you can't sleep. On top of being cold and tent. And they flash these huge lights on you from across the way, which they should be flashing on the work area, but flashing it on the campament, our camp, where we were at. And then in the morning, when I was there, they only did it one time. And I think that's why when our emails started getting out at that point, they had a screeching sound like it's a cannon, like a sound cannon, and the sound is like, it just like, and it pierces your ear. And I'm like a mile, 2 miles, 2 to 3, I think it's like 3 miles from Stand Rock, and you can hear it. It's like, and it makes you like kind of want to throw up, makes you kind of dizzy. I was far away and I heard that. Yeah, there's torture. That's post-traumatic stress stuff that people are running into down there. And yeah, they did that. But I'll tell you something. When they didn't do that, they didn't do that when the clergy were there. When the clergy came, when 400, 500 clergy people showed up to support, in their thing, the presence of the military and the police and the drone changed completely. Nothing. I mean, you looked around and you were like, what's going on? It was too quiet and too eerie. At one point, it was just like you become accustomed to having all that noise, all that energy, that negative energy on you. But when those clergy showed up, they tried to show a nice face, And it's that clergy. Some people were, for the government, whatever. I'm not being paranoid because that's natives believe it, and they're the ones that told me that. And so, that's just the kind of environment you're going to run into. Those you're going to go. What do you call it? They were just tactic to, which I consider illegal personally, but psychological warfare. That's the actual wording I was looking for. Psychological warfare. Yeah, that's psychological warfare. Okay, looking here, see if anybody else is asking questions. Other questions? Let me see if I can see anything. I hope. Yeah, so again, the call-in number number is 646-595-3440. Call me at that number, and I'll get in the air. And I'm just share thoughts about Standing Rock and everything that I encountered there. And everybody, it seems to sound, everybody who I met changed their names. Even the security who were running security for Sacred Stone, they never used their names. They that kind of environment you're going to walk into. Those of you who need to talk to me in person about what you're run into and what you need to do, if you go with two people, three people, it's not your best bet. I wouldn't invest off down there. There's just too much happening. Unless you have one of those spirits and can get through just about anything. I'm not saying it's unsafe, but you have to be on your toes. You have to be prepared to expect the unexpected. Because we did have a point of lockdown at one time where I'll get to lockdown. Let me get to lockdown. Lockdown was work this. There's voluntary lockdown, and then there's lockdown. At Standing Rock, voluntary lockdown. Okay, this voluntary lockdown means that when the militaries or the police are going into a certain mode, they lock the camp down so no one can come in or no one can go out. All right? That's voluntary. Involuntary lockdown. At Stone, when a few people wanted to leave home, the police said, turn the fuck around and go back down. Just that. I'm going to say it because we're adults, and this is important for you to do this, because you're going to hear shit like this. You're going to hear this kind of talk from people who are there. And I need you to understand that, because I don't want you to think you're walking into Disneyland. I don't want you to think that you're walking into, you're walking into a war zone. Okay, you're walking into a resistance area where people are fighting for their life. Okay, so you're gonna observe things that you're not comfortable with. You're gonna have that. All right, so I'm gonna talk to you frank. This is the best I can tell you. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything tonight. Okay, because you can get sugarcoat anywhere else. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Now, misinformation runs rampant all those camps. That's something I want you guys to know. All right. So let me see if I have a question here. Yeah, it was spiritual growth for me. It was a spiritual growth because I've, like most of us, have never experienced something like that. We've all kind of lived in our little sheltered lives in our little boxes, in our little circles of people. And to see what we saw and to see what the people were feeling and to see these little children, not knowing what their future's like. And I learned a lot about their culture as well, even in those short days, believe it or not. I mean, I'm very involved in Native community as it is and different kinds of Native traditions. And to actually to see what I've learned at firsthand, and it moved me. I almost said, to be honest with you, but I have some things I had to take care of here and some things to prepare. I was going here to help others prepare to go in there. And I'll be going down again, I know. And I really urge you guys to actually get a hold of me. And winter's coming with cold weather. You really want to think about it. No one's going to hold your hand down there. They'll give you clothes, they'll give you blankets, they'll give you all kinds of things you need. But you know what? It's cold. It's very cold. I don't want to mislead you in any way. I don't want you to say, yeah, you're going to be okay. I went ill prepared in some sense, in some capacity. I took the things I needed. But if it snowed, if the weather drastically changed, I wasn't prepared for that. I wouldn't have been prepared for that. I had a hard time at night, and I was trying to sleep, and I couldn't sleep on top of all the noises and all the psychological stuff that was happening. The weather in itself was testing my spirit for sure. And I remember laying in that tent in that cold and going, wow, I don't know if I'd be able to stay here winter time. I don't know if I can make it. I don't know if I'm lucky because I can leave. I mean, most of these people can't go anywhere. They have nowhere to go. They have no choice but stay there and fight for their freedom, fight for their land, fight for that water. It's about water. It's about what happens after you're done fracking that oil through there, and piping it through. And when it's depleted and done, what happens to the pipes full of chemicals, full of stuff, residue, when they start to rust and when they start to break down? Who cares, right? 100 years from now, we won't be here. Fuck it, Kind of the attitude is, you're the future. The future, what happens to that? The Gulf of Mexico's not enough for you to do that. When that oil spill, how about in Alaska when oil spill? Isn't that enough for us? Isn't that enough for us to say, hey, you know what? We really need to fix this? I mean, when is enough is enough? When is enough? The only reason that pipeline is going through that near or close to that, through that road, through that area, is because the white people, and I'm going to say it, the white people in the suburbs didn't want it to go through their area in Bismarck. Okay, they didn't want it to go travel through there. Put it on Indian land, take it the other way. That's the truth. All right, that's intimate. They want an intimate domain. They should have taken it, should have laid it over there, through the river, right? Regardless, they've already dug the hole under the river. They're just waiting to join the pipe. That's what people don't get. Who can stop this? Obama probably could. I don't know. Can he? Does he want to? Does anybody know? No, they're all interested in this. They're all put their money in stuff. They all win from this. Somebody signed off on this paper somewhere along there. There's a paper floating around someplace that they're looking for, the Native Americans are looking for, and the Lord looking for, that people signed off on this thing. That no one can magic find now. It's no longer there. And according to some Native American lawyers, they've discovered that the United States has been bankrupt since 1939. Now bankruptcy causes those trees to fall away and these sovereign lands come back to the Native Americans. They don't want you to know this stuff. They don't want you to know this stuff. Because America's a corporation. That corporation is bankrupt. So this Native American lady actually went to Washington and got the treaties, copies of the treaties. She has them in her hands. Because they're going to do a lawsuit against the federal government, as they have every right to. We have actors who've donated, solar panels and all kinds of crazy things, and drones, and have donated electrical charging posts. That's one thing I want to talk about real quick. Let me hear real quick, but I want to talk to you about that real fast. I want to talk to you about Facebook Hill, which that's what it's dubbed, Facebook, where everybody goes up on Facebook and is filming like, I did. But I sat there and I'm going, the battle for the charging post was amazing. This it was like a 12-point outlet thing where everyone to plug their phone in. I mean, everybody was pretty patient. It was a battle. There was so much. People had so much they wanted to share and so much they had to tell the world, that it was just an amazing thing to watch this little battle on this little power strip that people were, up on this hill. And I have a picture of it, one of my pictures, and people are like, are you charging? Hey, we're 80%. Can I get on here? It was kind of that. I actually put my battery in there to charge, and someone had them plugged in their phone into my battery charger. So it was kind of crazy. That was interesting to watch that play out. The technology is at purpose, and but that was kind of interesting. I was wondering, what if we didn't have this technology? What if we didn't have any of this stuff? If the media is covering anything, who's covering? How would the outside world know anything what's going on? The outside world only knows what's happening at Standing Rock because of people like myself, my friend Paula, my friend, Alex, and your friends who are there right now. Some of you have friends, and I have friends who are there. And that's one of the only reasons we know anything's happening out there. It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame.
Yeah, I'm curious. I heard a few remarks that women in the camp need to have on skirts.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Yeah. Okay, Adriana asked me
This will
the
be
women
something,
that can't.
yeah, to tell any travelers.
Yeah. Female friends, friends who are traveling there or whoever going to plan up there, you have to understand that you're going into somebody else's home, somebody else's territory, someone else's land, somebody else's country in a sense. And they really, really, really stress that the females wear skirts to the ceremonies, even to the front line. If you're going to be a frontline fighter, you have to wear a skirt. They're locked in their own traditions, and they have to be honored, and that's how things get done. If not, you don't get to go frontline. You don't get to do this. You get to do that, and that's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be. I mean, that they don't want your help or whatever, but there's respect. Respect holds respect. We can't have that American arrogant attitude. Well, we're American. We're going to do it our way. No, it doesn't work that way. It's something you're going to have to really put aside and lay it down and say, I'm going to be here with the Sioux, the Lakotas, I'm going to be at Red Bud, and I'll be here at Sacred Stone. I'm going to be here. I'm going to honor their traditions because they correct people, and I corrected people when I was there. And you know what? I way too many people want to do it their way because, Spirit called me to do it this way. You know what? I'm going to tell you now. I'm glad that Spirit called and want you to do whatever you want to do. But when you ask you to walk in a clockwise manner around the sacred fire, and you hold tobacco in your left hand and hold it to your heart, please honor that, respect that, because they also want you to learn. They also want you to learn what they're about. They've already been imposed upon by, Spanish, the French, the English, everybody who's come there and wanted to change their way of life. So don't be surprised if you get corrected and if you get put in your place. That happens a lot. Not necessarily, but I watched it. I was asked to correct people because I know some of the traditions, not all of them, those that I knew. I was keep, my friend also Alex was to keep people from certain things. And you know what? It's not because they wanted to be rude. Some people just don't know. And if you don't know, you should ask. That's the thing. People just assume that it's okay. There was a time when the clergy were there and they would burn their little papers, with prayers to send to God or whatever. But you know what? The firekeeper said, no way, Jose, that's not happening because that's not, if you want to do that, you build your fire over there and you do it. This is our tradition. Please don't come over here and try to change it. You've already changed. Christianity has already changed our lives forever. We believed and you screwed us. Basically, plain in English, some people love it and some people don't like it. Okay? All right? And when remember, these people were called savages. They're still being called savages right now. I heard people call people savages at gas stations, And I forgot to tell you that, John. This stuff hasn't gone away. If you think this has gone away, this is weird. This is alive in 2016. This is happening in 2016. If we didn't have internet or anything, these people would probably have been bulldozered and run over by now. We would probably be talking about it in the books 25, 50 years later. There were just some crazy people doing this crazy dance, so they already ran them over. They already ran over their North Camp. They already pushed them out of there. So, ready to be corrected, be ready to learn. So that's important. You need to learn other people's cultures too. That's something that as human beings we have to learn that not everybody lives the way we all live. Let's see if I have any questions here. All right, and no, thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. Yeah, respect's important. Respect's important. When I didn't know, I asked because I know very very quickly that I could be offending somebody. And
I have
a lot of people.
question.
Go ahead. What's your question?
If anyone is thinking that they're going to, let's say, take their drums and go out there and, perform their own little dance and have little drum circles, how is that going to be receptive?
If Adriana asked, how is non-Native American drum circle per se going to be received by indigenous people? I had drum, and dancing. I tried drum, and I played a little bit. It didn't call anybody. It wasn't like the Pied Piper call didn't come through. You know what I'm saying? And I played it stir instead of playing it loud. So what I'm going to think, what I'm going to say is the best thing to do is to find out and go to the main camp. Not in Sacred Stone, but go to the main camp and find where the drumming is happening and get involved somehow. If you're going to drum there, ask them about their drumming. Ask them what it means to drum. And if you're invited to drum, then you drum. You don't just necessarily close yourself to drum. Something I also know too is that some people are going to invite you to ceremonies, and you can say yes or no, and that's fine. But be open to any possibility because it's a beautiful, even though this is a sad moment in time, it's also a beautiful moment in time. It brings together all kinds of people from all walks of life, and it is bringing back all kinds of tribes that have been, at war or in dissent with each other, and find them to come. The Hopi ran from Arizona all the way to North Dakota, to be there with the people, the brothers and sisters in Standing Rock. That's a long distance to run. I have stories of people who rode there. Yeah, I know a guy who rode his bike 17 days to get there. There was another lady who rode her bike 2 months. People who are really sacrificing a lot of stuff to get to Standing Rock. So to just start an impromptu drum circle, I didn't see it once. I didn't see it there when I was there. Let me see. Was I witness to violence, water protectors, law enforcement? Yeah. I saw them get raided and maced, arrested, and stuff. There was a girl who told a story about how they were spray macing just the natives. And she was a woman of privilege, and she felt so angry about that she actually jumped in front in the natives to help them. They sprayed her, and they arrested her. Now she has a felony charge. And she, she said she was some cute little blonde girl, and they didn't want to mace me, but then when they said she was with them, she was fair game. But yeah, I did see violence. I did this stuff. Let's see, any other sections.
There wasn't any violence when the clergy was there, was there?
When the clergy were there was probably the most. When the clergy, Adriana asked it with violence. When the clergy were there, it was a time of peace. It was a time of showing different faiths, which was actually a very powerful time, a very powerful moment. And that was a time where Standing Rock to show the world that they are peaceful people. That they don't have to be violent all the time, and but they are frustrated, and they do appreciate everything that you've brought and everything you've given, but they really need more people to come, and they really need to be supported. With numbers. I'm going to say it, and some will agree with me, some will agree with me, and that's okay. There was a World Series while I was down there, and the Chicago Cubs beat my Cleveland Indians. Kind of an unfortunate situation. 5 million people. This is the third largest gathering of humans in one area. 5 million people showed up for the Cubs, celebration to celebrate the Cubs winning the World Series, and that compares nowhere near what's happening at Standing Rock, what's happening in North Dakota. People are fighting for their lives. And if we could have just had a third or a quarter of those people show up, Standing Rock, that would just kill the whole thing. Could you imagine if 5 million people just came to North Dakota one day and said, we've had enough, you can't do this anymore? I hate to say our priorities are kind of screwed up. That's me talking, but, that's my projection. That's my judgment. But that kind of pissed me off. To see that these people were more happy that they had won a freaking World Series in 40 some years, and these Native American people have been slaughtered in genocide. They've had genocide on America has had genocide on their hands. They've killed these people. This stuff doesn't go away. It's like asking Jewish people to forget the Holocaust. Okay, and I'm going to be frank again. It's like telling the Jew, hey, you know what? It's over, man. You're done. That's over, man. That's history. That's done. That's 100 years ago. Who cares? Well, you know what? There's people who keep that message going. They keep that message alive to never forget people killed in World War II and massacred and shot. And yet we're the only nation that bombed 2 cities in Japan. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We killed these people, with a bomb. Okay, that's why we have 5 million people cheering for Cubs, for winning the World Series because I don't even know. I'm getting pissed off right now, but that, and there's people
Most
who
people have their priorities wrong.
Yeah, $5 million priority. So, money. It's about money, man. That's the bottom line. It's about money. This pipeline's money. This pipeline's about getting richer. This pipeline's about getting my hands in, my pockets deeper. Okay, that's what it's about. Sports is the same freaking way. I have nothing against sports, but when I saw that really irked me. That really we should have held that rally, the Cubs rally, Standing Rock. Might have made a big difference, right?
Mhm. That's
but
right.
I'm thinking, where's everybody at? I'm like, there's people there, but the point where if they see our white faces, and our black faces and our Asian faces, people who don't look Native American in the front line, they're going to have a hard time shooting those people. They're going to have a hard time shooting rubber bullets to those people. Much as they probably, some of them may not want it and desperately want it, because there's mixed on them. But you know what? These people need our support because this is a time to make things right. This is a time to make things correct, wrongs that we've done. Will it make everything right? No. But it will make the healing process better. There are a lot of bitter people who live in this area who have not forgotten what happened and what hasn't happened and all these different things that happened to their people. If you think they have forgotten, you are totally wrong. You are totally misled. And he who has power, he who can write the history books, controls what we read. So the information that you read sometimes is one-sided. It's like that little box I was telling you about. Oh, there's just some savages, they uprised, we got rid of them. I'm going to put the call out. Do what you can. If you can go, go. If you can't go, don't go. But support the people who are going. If you don't agree with any of this, then don't agree with it. That's fine. But I'm going to tell you, this affects everybody. Water is a resource we're not contaminated anymore. We have contaminated it to no ends. Water that you drink right now, contaminated. Even if it's purified, sanctified, blessified, whatever you want to do it, run through a filter, reverse osmosis, positive osmosis, osmosis. There's things that just do not come out of that water anymore. The water that you drink out of the tap is littered with medications. It's a study just came out. You can look at research, do the research, that there's hormones, there are heart medications, there are all kinds of things by particulates that run through there. Hey, we're drinking this stuff, man. Would you like to drink oil in your water? How many drops of oil would you like out of your water? You might as well get used to it. You might as well get your body acclimated to it. And that's what we're fighting for, man. We're fighting for the right to have clean water, to have, clean land, Fine, we need oil. Yeah, I get we need oil. We need to run our cars. But there's different avenues that can go to, supply our wants and our needs in this country, in this whole world. When is enough enough? We're going to say no. Do I really need
time
fancy
to move the energy?
Yeah, our energy resource, we need to move. I saw a whole windmill plantation, and that's setting somewhere. There's solar panels.
Power.
In Spain, there's solar towers. There's solar panels that are, paneling. I don't know. It's crazy. are coming in, shooting at a Native American church. I mean, I don't know. You're gonna have to dig in there and really do your research. And there's people who are there from Chillicothe already. I mean, there's all kinds of people down there. Law enforcement's doing their job, and I get that. And some guys in law enforcement really enjoy their job. So remember that. And they're ready for that kind of. They live to be in that action. So for them, it's no big deal. But I was going to walk to the Red Camp. The Red Camp is where true, hardcore Native American, however you want to call it, embedded, people who go to the front line, front of the line. This is kind of where they really don't talk to you type of people. My friend Paula went there, and she said it's like they're dug in there and they're trenched in there, and they're having their ceremonies and they're getting their whatever they're doing to prepare themselves mentally, physically, spiritually. And it's just like this culture. We have people like that who are ready to fight, ready to battle. But these guys are ready to lay down their lives if they have to. Don't want to, because I've talked to some of them. They don't want to. They know if they have to, they will do it. They will do it, not to prove a point, but to stand for something that is important, which is life, which is water. Life matters. Water matters. These people matter. And for us to stand idle and to not do anything, write your congressman, write the congressman, write the Army Corps of Engineers, write the president. What stops things in this country is, black ink on white paper. Okay? That's what moves people in this particular system. Okay. Wordsmiths out there, those of you who are wordsmiths, those of you guys who can articulate words on paper, like people can put words in speech, write. Help people to write their thoughts. A lot of people won't write because they're afraid to write. They don't feel they can write. If you know people like that, then hold something where you can write things. Have a writing campaign, where we're going to write together. We're going to share. We're going to talk. Because there are people out there who really want to do something and they can't because they physically can't and they're not, financially able to. There are people who can't go. If you can organize food drives, you can organize coat drives, you can organize, medic drives, sleeping bags, whatever. It's even just a march down the street. Even have 1 million people, march to North Dakota, I don't know, or march to Washington or something. We have to do something. We can't just sit around here and just say, well, it's not my problem, it's over there. Well, it is your problem. It is our problem. Because why can't they just build a refinery right where the water is coming out? Because they're lazy and they want to truck it and they want to train it and they don't want to move it across country. They want to just plug this little pipe. No, there it is. They want a job to be easy so they don't have to pay a whole lot of people. Well, it's the bottom line. No, we don't want to affect the bottom line, We don't want to be in the red here. We want to be in the black, They want their pockets to be nice and lined. That's what it's about, friends. It's about money. It's about the black snake. There is a prophecy of the black snake in many of these cultures. I even had a vision about it. I told them, they reminded me about it. And, in the sweat lodge, I saw it, and I didn't know. I had no clue it was this. But, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people are going, this is going to end the way that maybe natives wanted it to end. And you know what? I'm probably right. You're probably right. They're probably just going to muscle their way through it, and it's going to be done. Got people with sticks and stones or nothing at all against people who have armament. The advantage is on the American government side. Let me see if there's any other questions. Adrienne, you have any questions?
No. I think you've given us a pretty accurate visual, I think. Anybody that's going in there expecting, like you said, a little vacation or something like that needs to completely rethink everything.
Okay. I do want to say something. I know some people are saying that the clergy, they only had respect for the clergy. Um, respect for the clergy. It was more like they didn't want wanted the clergy to see a different side of maybe what maybe what was out of there that it wasn't true. So the clergy going there. Oh yeah, there's nothing going on. It was just pretty peaceful. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. Here's a story that I'm gonna save to yesterday's show. I'll just read it tomorrow. But I was gonna talk about it. But I have to talk about it. The night before the clergy shut up, we had a brother, an elder. His name was Black Cloud. He's a trailer, and he was really upset with some of the people in there, and then trying to talk to the new people. But of course, like anybody who's in a situation gets really charged and has no way to remove themselves from what's happening except for what they're doing, and you respect that and you honor that that they're going through that. He was chastising people for not being on the front line, for not being exactly on the front line, for not being close, and he was going on and on. No one would say anything because no one knows why he's saying, why he feels that way. But I had enough. I had driven, 18 hours, 1,200 miles to put my support in any capacity I could. And so, Black Cloud was talking about how the white faces needed to be there, and I agree with that part. But what I didn't agree with, that we all should be in the fight, that we all should be in the front line, that we should. And he was really angry. And he didn't understand why. And I said, you know what? I said, offense, brother, but I disagree with you. I opened my mouth. I hadn't been opening my mouth much. I said, I disagree with you because I was at the front line. This person was in the front line. That person was in the front line. And you know what? If you wanted us to be in the front line, then you should have sent us to the front line properly. You sent us to the side of the line, on the other side of the bank, through this field. And that's just people who are not organized, and you guys are not organized, and you need to figure out your guys' strategy, how you're going to all work together. I'm talking about leadership. I'm not talking about me. And he got pissed off, and he's like, "Oh, you're disrespecting us." I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just giving you a perception how I'm seeing it. And you're attacking people, and you're pissed at people. And he could hear half of what I was saying for not participating. I said, I didn't come here to do that. I came to Sacred Stone to be in prayer and to offer, stage what I need to do. And, it stopped him, but it opened the doors to the people to ask questions, maybe in a more polite way than I did. but that's where the story started to come out, And then he had I found out later that he had a run-in with the women in the camp. They challenged him, and they corrected him. And I didn't hear about this until after the next day before I left. That they were really upset with him because of his attitude and how he was. Because the women actually are the ones who natives hold the women in high revere. They were respected in the sense of leadership. I don't say they always necessarily honor them in the sense of there's bad things that happen too, like in our culture. But they ganged up on him, I guess. But the day of the clergy, we got to walk bridge. We got to got to the church, and then I remember I had to guard the sacred fire at the main camp with my friend. Like, so we were there, making sure people wouldn't do certain things. And I remember this young, girl who, she had her. I don't know, she's probably a unique minister or something. She's like, "Oh, can I stand up on this?" I said, and I was just being where I was at that moment. I says, "Well, let me ask you a question. Would you stand up on your pew, your church, and do whatever you're going to do?" So she's like, "No." Okay, well, there's your answer. I mean, just a lack of respect, just a lack of courtesy, is what bothered me about how clergy were acting and how the member of the congregation they brought with them were acting. Taking pictures when they were asked not to take pictures, and doing things that just weren't appropriate. They actually had to move the pews out of the benches out of there so people wouldn't sit there anymore because it was getting so ridiculous. And it's just something else where someone just respects someone else's culture because they think they've been programmed to think that there's no other way but this way. So we all took our hike down to 1806, which is the bridge where things that you guys saw, most of you have seen the big battle with the wooden sticks and the mace spread was, and where the cars were on fire, and that's where we went. So all the congregation lined up in a big half circle outside on the edge of the bridge, and I'm walking past them because, you know, I thought we were all going to the end of the bridge where the burning charred cars were. And so I'm filming, and security let me through, and they're asking me, do you know that guy? And I go, yeah, I know that guy. And he met the other guy to ask me. So I got past security, and I'm filming. So I filmed a lot of good footage, so you guys will be able to see that on Facebook. And I only went to one point where there was one last security guy. He wasn't letting anybody through. So I'm taking pictures, and I found actually a magnesium, like a shot, like a bullet, you know, when they hit. And someone had dropped it, and I picked it up. So I have that. You know, they talked about guns and shots being fired. We'll have evidence of that in my pocket here at home. So those of you who don't believe that things were actually done were, and it's actually been proven already, that magnesium shots, rounds were shot. Okay? And because Iggy has one. But anyhow, getting back out. And, you know, I'm waiting and watching and participating. And I listen to the clergy. And there's other clergy outside, the clergy celebrating. And they're all their kumbaya, you know, all praying. And I could see natives were upset a little bit. There were some natives who got into it, some didn't. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I don't know who channeled me at that moment. And I walked up to these two ministers, and I said, you know, they really need to see your white faces and your black face with black, white, and Asian. They really need to see your black faces and white faces out on the front line, up by those charred cars. You need to be standing there, so the media, when they shine their cameras on you, they will see your face, and they'll see the use of the Native Americans. This sing stuff is okay, but this is not. This doesn't. Where I was at that moment, But anyhow, so they got up and they started walking towards the thing, and then this guy jumps off the trailer. What are you doing? What are you doing? You have a contract. You're not allowed. Signed. Remember, all the pastors and ministers signed. We were not going to go over there, and we weren't going to participate in that faction. We were going to just stay right here and pray. And I said, you know what? And I got pissed. I said, and he goes, you're inciting a riot. I said, I'm not inciting a riot. Excuse me, sir. And I'm screaming. I'm loud, okay, on the bridge. And hopefully somebody filmed it somewhere. And I said, you know what? I said, they have free will, brother, to make any choice they want. I don't care what paper they signed. They have free will to make their decision what they want and walk there. God gave us free will to make that decision. God gave us that right to make our choice, not your choice. It doesn't matter if we sign this paper. You know, this is like treaty stuff. I said, we're going to do that stuff again? You're going to hold it down? I said, they need to see your white faces and your black faces. They need to get up there. They need to be up there, not up here singing a bunch of religious songs. You need to just stand there and just go, hey, we're here and support Standing Rock. You know? I said that out loud. I mean, out loud, and the natives were like cheering, and they're like, yeah, and they were going on. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what happened to me. Okay, at that moment, I just had enough because I've been around stuff like this all my life. And you know what? And then security came and was looking, Native American security. Who's inside? What's going on? And everybody put in and they go, who's doing that? And they go, the guy, and the natives go, he went that way. And I go, okay. And I'm staying right there, and I'm in front of them, and they had protected me, man. They had stepped up and honored what I was doing. They said, and they told me then and after that they agreed with what I said. And how I said, I told him that Jesus went into the market and threw everybody's stuff around and was pissed off, And I told him that, I screamed that, and that's when that guy backed off from me when he heard that, because they had to go up there. And you know what? I talked to the Catholic priest. I said, you need to go up there. You need to face. You are one of the reasons why this is all here, because when the Catholic Church came here, you called these people savages. You called these people humans, because they didn't speak the language, because they didn't know how to pray God. And this is why we're here today. And he looked at me, he didn't say too much. Oh, calm down, And then he finally, when the native elders walked through, the Catholic priest, I think it was a cardinal, he actually walked over there presented him. So then one by one, a lot of them went over there and showed solidarity and stood there. You know, I don't know. See, I didn't know what my purpose was sometimes, why I had to be there. Even though I had a kind of a spat with Black Cloud, you know, I still set his message regardless. And, you know, and then things happen. You know, they wanted to show peace. I know they wanted to, you know, a face, and I get that. But a lot of the reasons why we're in the situations are because those faces right there are the ones who put us in the situation where we're at. You know, there are a lot of those faces, a lot of these clergy, and a lot of them, especially the Catholic Church, is why we're at, because they are the ones who had the power in those days. They were the ones that said, hey, we're going to go to these new lands and we're going to cross down, and anybody who's there has to convert or they will be killed. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so something inside it boiled out. I had, you know, my Upper Arlington backpack on, you know, so that way so everybody can see it, you know. But, you know, nobody reported me to the security. Nobody said that was that guy. And after the march over, people came up to me and said, you know, took my hands and like, you know what, we believe what you said. What you said touched us more than what these guys were preaching and praying and kumbaya. These people have not forgotten what's happened to them. Why they are where they are. These people are so, there's a genetic miasm of distrust, a miasm of sadness and distrust for people who are outside of their culture because of what has happened to them. And I don't blame them when they feel the way they feel. I stood up for my native roots because I'm also European too. But I had my native side came out like nobody's business that day, you know. And I stayed on that bridge, and you know, till the end. And I wasn't afraid. I was ready for anything. I even had from you saw a telephone number written on my arm. That was there in case I got arrested, so I can call the legal counsel they had, the guild lawyers guild they have that supports people out of jail. And yeah, there were people put in kennels, dog kennels, if you wanted to know, because I met a few people in the dog kennels, and were somewhere in there without any coats or anything in the cold. So yeah, that's your friend Iggy. That's what he did on the bridge. And I was going to share that for tomorrow's show. I had to share that today because I really need you guys to think about what's going on over there. I really need to process what's happening, because what's happening over there, you can watch all these little videos you want, but you have a feel. You can only get a taste. It's like giving you a little bit of sugar on your mouth, and you just want more, but you can't get more. And then you have to process what sugar tastes like on your tongue, because you want that taste again, because you want to experience it. Until I went there, I had no clue. Even the landscape, the roads, and the directions of where everything was out of disproportion in my mind. How I thought things played out. But no. Just do what you can. That's all I'm going to say. Do what you can. Support any you can. What I shared, you know. I mean, share this video. There's a lot of injustice going on out there, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen because it's just going to happen, because we don't have enough understanding of what's happening out there and what these people go through every day. And so I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave because I didn't know my money wasn't complete there. But I left and I drove back, and I got stones, and I got dirt, and I got water to give to certain friends of mine who have been there for me and worked with me and prepare me for this moment in time. Paula and my friend Paula I never really truly met until this journey. Alex and I have never really done anything outside like this at this capacity. He'd never been in. Neither one of us have ever been. None three of us have never been in anything like this. And for Paula to just say, "I'm going to stay," she was in tears and she was torn. She has a 9-year-old dad at home who's sick. and she has a debt. Her family, just chastised her for staying temporarily. Of course, they got over it pretty quick. I mean, what are you gonna do? But if you go, some of you won't come back. Some of you will stay. Some of you who decide to go, in your heart of hearts, you'll figure out a way to make things work here at home. But you're going to stay. You're going to stay because you're going to fall in love with the land, fall in love with people, fall in love with the process, fall in love with yourself. You're going to fall in love with that aspect of yourself that you didn't know was capable of loving in the way it does. Because you have to honor who you are to be able to honor these people and to help these people. You can just be in there as the Salvation Army and that's it and you're done. A piece of you stays there. A piece of you remains there. A piece of you is embedded in you. If you know anything about Native American spirituality, any type of indigenous spirituality, you just don't leave the situation. The situation will always ride inside of you. Every piece of grass, every grain of salt that you touch, any piece of dirt, anything that you've touched while you were there or seen or heard or tasted is with you forever. Every glance looked at you, hard or smiling, whatever, is with you. Everything. When I was there, it was just like I knew that I could stay there and never return until this was complete. Because I was without. I had food, I had water, I had a place to stay. Because people were giving for the people who stayed and were fighting for the cause. I had shelter. Even if I didn't have shelter, I would have had shelter. I had support. And they're like-minded individuals who are all there together from all over the world, not just the United States and Canada. I'm talking about all over the world. I met people from Russia, Germany. I met people. I mean, you're talking about people from foreign countries who are here. And we have people who live 5 miles from there. They won't even go there and support those people, okay? If that tells you anything. All right? I'm not telling you to go. Yeah, I'm asking people to go sell their stuff and go there. But I can tell you, if you do go there, you're not going to come back the same. I have not come back the same. As much as when I came back today, I woke up angry. I woke up sad. I woke up with all kinds of emotions. I woke up feeling like I've kind of left another family behind. I visited my mom and dad today. I had dinner with them, and we laughed at the stories and me, and the things I told you, and they were like, "Oh my God," I remember Paul. She says, "You need to wear this sage in your shoes. You need this. You need the cedar in your shoes. All the natives put cedar in their shoes into battle, and they're going into a place where they're hurt." And I said, "Oh, okay, sure." So I put it in my shoes, and and in my mind I created, I'm protected because I have cedar in my shoes. Which is in a ceremony where the helicopter is flying over and being loud and pushing the water as they were doing the ceremony to bless the waters. That's just the kind of nastiness that's going on over there. That pissed me the fuck off, man. I watched that from the other bank. I didn't know they were over there, and I watched that helicopter like trying to be funny, blowing their smoke and them off that pier a little bit. And this is not the military. This is the security force for DAPL. Yeah, for DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline people. Okay, so, but the night I left, the dream started again. It's just, I don't know. Tune into Paula's page. Paula, she, my friend, just look her up on my Facebook. She's got great stories she's sharing. She saw the 50 horses come into camp. She went to a peace rally today, I guess, from my understanding was. There's a lot of your friends are going to go and never return. They'll go and they'll never return the same if they do return. Your friend Iggy has returned. It's not the same. When I first building, the first true concrete buildings I saw, when I got to Chicago, I just wanted to pull over and throw up. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't focus. I was just grossed out. I got to Columbus and I was like a dog beaten.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, couldn't look at anything. I was just like, I can't believe I live in this stuff. I can't believe I think this is good. This is home. I can't believe that, that I at my house I don't walk very much. I walked a lot. I was very active, walking 3 miles that way and 3 miles this way, 2 miles that way. I probably walked 10 miles in one day, maybe or more. So I was in the land. I was touching the land. I was embracing the land. I mean, there's more I'm going to share tomorrow's show. I want to leave some for tomorrow's show as well. But I want you guys to know that I'm going to be doing some more donating drives for people. There's people going next week. I want to actually talk with them so they can know what to think about, what to prepare for. Excuse me. There's a lot to take in. You get very offended very quickly if you're not careful. And I don't want you to be offended. I don't want you to offend. I don't want you to go there and say, "Well, I wanted to help the natives. They were rude." I had to talk to some of them, but they didn't get it. Not being rude to you. They live here. You're gone. They live here. When you go back to your TV,
them to respect them and their ways.
They should be respected. Yeah, just respect them. Mm-hmm. Respect their ways. Listen to what they have to say. Because so long they have never been listened to. That's the biggest thing. And they still feel like they're not being listened to. Because if you think about it, they're really not being listened to. This pipeline.
No.
If someone was trying to build a pipeline through my house and we're going to do it, you think I would let them do it? And they can go outside the house and do it? That's the way you got to think. You got to think yourself. You got to put yourself in their shoes, which is near impossible to do. But you got to put yourself in a place of understanding, a place where a possibility is, okay, this is what's going on over there. Because I've heard a lot of crazy stuff lately. We need oil, man. Fuck those Indians. I've heard that. Heard it. I've also heard people say, what's going on over there? I didn't know anything was happening. That's even more disheartening when people don't know what's happening. I didn't hear on the news. I was like, no, you're not going to.
I think people should complain to the news and the media and ask them. That's another place where people should write letters and complain to Channel 4, Channel 6, Channel 10.
Yeah.
And all the other ones.
I agree. They should report to all the other channel outlets, media outlets.
People should complain.
Yeah.
Just like they are to the White House and the government.
Complain to your local channels right now. Ask them, why am I not seeing coverage of the Native American situation at Standing Rock? Why aren't you talking about the pipeline? What's going on? Are you really gonna do this? Are you really not going to report that, or even present it through there at some level? Don't need to go to the internet and go find news out. It's important, but ain't that freaking important? How much has your life changed since the last election or the last two elections? How much has it changed? I can personally say it hasn't changed a whole lot for me. I'm not any richer or any poorer, but it hasn't changed a whole lot. For some people, maybe, but I guarantee you, it doesn't matter who's in office. You're not. It's not changed a whole lot.
Mm-mm.
But I guarantee right now, if that pipeline changes, if those people are defeated, they could possibly be defeated because we, who are more, into their aid and their rescue. That's the shame right there. If we don't step up and we don't say as Americans and say, hey, what you're doing out there is no good. I don't want to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen out there. I'm still praying. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to hold space and do what I can from my end. But doesn't look good. I'm not throwing in the towel, but from what I've seen, Money's more important than people. The oil is more important than people. And those people are going to stand locked arms and locked in hand and feet till the very end. And I pray to God that nothing bad happens to anybody there. I pray that no one accidentally slips a finger and causes something. Because you know what? It's not going to be Kent State there. I'll tell you that right now. Kent State, when they shot those students, it died like right there. Don't. If you're watching this news feed, and you're listening to this news feed right now, government agencies or whatever, if you slip a finger and you kill one Native American person, you're going to have some serious problems. Not with me, but those people, they're going to disappear because that's already been done to them. And that's why they're there, because that's already been done to them. So if you folks who are listening or watching this video, watching this live stream, or watching this board and listening to what I'm saying, start a writing campaign. Start a media blast. I don't care what you do. You need to do what you can at any capacity you can. You know, please do what you can. I'm not asking you to, be engulfed in this 1,000 hours a day. Let's just write a letter to your congressman, President Obama, whoever you think this is going to help, Say, hey, you know what's going on? Are you serious? They're going to write you some retraction letter back saying, oh, well, we're checking in, it's okay, it's not really going for native land and this and that, it's just next to it, blah, blah, blah. The whole point is that, once this fracking done, what happens, these pipes, it's just the principle, man, not that this can happen because another group of people didn't want it. You can't put it on poor people because they can't fight and defend themselves. And that's what's happening. You're going against people who cannot defend themselves. I stand with Standing Rock. I stand with Campbell. I stand with North Dakota. My stations that I'm with, they don't have. I don't name them, the people that I'm associated with, the groups, because you know what? They may not stand with them. I, as a human being, as a person, by myself, Iggy Garcia, Ignacio Garcia, stand with those people. I've stood with people. I've stood on the front line. I voiced my voice at the front line. I yelled, I screamed. I got in the face of ministers and clergy. Okay, because you know what? If I didn't do it, who was going to do it? So you do what you can. I put the challenge out to you, everybody out there, to do what you can. Just do what you can. Okay? I don't want to talk too much more. There's more tomorrow to talk about because David and Adriana will have more questions for me on our regular show with Insights Radio. But I wanted to at least reach out to everybody and let them know that I'm okay. Paul's okay. Alex is okay. And that maybe some of your friends are okay. I haven't heard nothing negative. There's nothing negative I've heard come out of the camps. But you know what? I'm back choice. No one helped me against my will. I wasn't abducted. I've been treated good. So, folks, do your best. I'm going to sign off here in a minute because I need to process more because there's so much that I went through, so much that I experienced that I'm only touching the iceberg, tip of the iceberg here. But I had to share something with you because I know you guys weren't. I wasn't able to share with you the live streaming because of the jamming of the cell phones and stuff by the government, by the authorities. And those signals did come out because Signal had a contract with Verizon. Verizon had these special jamming boxes. The government couldn't jam their signals. So that's the stuff that's happening over there, okay? If that tells you anything, right there, okay? Right there is proof of what's happening out there. Proof doesn't have to be sometimes, the videos, but just a little proof that now that they're not even allowed to fly their drones now, the natives, because It's against FCC or FA regulations or whatever, FC and FA regulations into violating airspace. The airspace has been closed down there anyhow. No one's allowed to fly any kind of commercial or any type of plane over that area. Okay, so like I said, it is a sense of resistance, a battle, a war of sorts for the rights to have clean water. Ask yourself, what's important. I don't expect you guys to necessarily buy into everything I told you, but what I've told you is true, factual, and how I experienced it, how I perceived it. Okay, someone will probably say, well, this is what happened. I'm going to tell you how I saw it and how I experienced it. I saw the chart cars. I filmed the chart cars. I found the magnesium, round the ground. So tune in tomorrow to With Insights Radio at 7 p.m. with Adriana and David too, because they'll have a whole bunch of questions for me. No, David will. Adriana asked me a lot too. Sorry you couldn't hear her, but that's kind of the way technology works sometimes. But
I appreciate you sharing.
You're welcome. I know that I look away sometimes. It's because I'm thinking of what I went through, what I saw. The little children, the impression of the little kids is what sticks in my mind, and them running and playing. And little kids jump my truck and riding on my truck, wanted to lift. They didn't need it. They just wanted to lift. It's kind of funny. And they're just so raised so different. The trust of humans is raised completely different. And this little generation is very inquisitive, very but very sharp too. They know who's kind of like good and bad. It's kind of built in their DNA. They know who to surround themselves with. All right. Peace and love, my friends. Feel free to message me with stuff. If you need to list what these camps really want and need. Like I told you at the beginning, they really need people. They need manpower. They need people to help because there's food rotting away too. I forgot to say that. There's actually perishable things that are rotting, like apples and squashes and egg squashes and all kinds of, because there's just not enough, number one, people to eat. Number one, there's not enough people to prepare it either. So there's not enough hands to go around. Also, especially when you have people wanting to go into the flying, their systems are taxed. So keep in mind about those things. And winter's coming too. Warm items for sure. Underwear is huge.
Yeah,
people really love sub-zero weather. Yeah.
Sub-zero weather items.
Sub-zero weather items. That's correct, Adriana. Thank you. But all right. That's all I'm going to share tonight. I need a break from this now. I need to process a little bit because it's a lot to take in. It's a lot that I went through, even though I didn't participate. I couldn't imagine what I would like. I would just gone in like full steam ahead. And I'm glad I took it in pieces and parts because I'd probably be drained, exhausted right now. Because there's people been from the beginning, and you can see their faces, and they're miffed. They're angry, and they're happy at the same time. They're more angry. There's nothing to celebrate, I guess, as a lot of people have been saying. There's really nothing to celebrate. It's whether you don't hear like the drumming and the things that you were asking me, Adriana. Well, there's no celebration. It's all preparation because we don't know what's going to come next.
Nothing's been done yet. There's nothing to celebrate.
There's nothing to celebrate right now. All right.
Thank you for sharing. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you very much. And I will see everybody tomorrow. And thank you from the bottom of your hearts for listening to what I had to share. And I know I missed a lot of things, and I know there's more that I have to say, and it'll come to me after. So I'm going to read a lot of your comments, and I'll try to respond back to everybody to the best capacity that I can. I hope in the bottom of your hearts and my hearts that I said something that just gets you to understand the reality of what's happening out here and what is going on. Because even from my point of view, where I was here in Columbus, Ohio, watching from these videos, cannot fathom. And when I put that piece together with my human piece, visually seeing, there's just two different contrasts, just two different things. And to hear that people thought that these was like rebellious people who were aligned for doing what they're doing, and how they were treated, that upset me. That really upset me. And to actually meet these people, and some people wouldn't get close to me, and they wouldn't open up, and I know why, and I understand why, and I get that. So you're going to have that when you go in there. You're going to have that. There are going to be people who just don't want to be friendly and don't want you to do what they need you to do. That's it, and you're done. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Got to go. If you can do it, fine. If you can't, fine. People who just, if you're there to make friends, you're going to make friends. But if you're going to there and you think why somebody doesn't want to be your friend, why they don't want to talk to you, they just don't want to do that. Accept that fact. Just accept that fact. Get over it. Like energies attract, you'll find the people who like you, the people who will resonate with you, and that's what you do. But prepared to be cold. Be prepared to, do what you need to do, and do the best you can. But we really need to put black ink on white paper, and just tell everybody that this can't happen in 2016. It just can't. That's what's bugging me. It's just I can't believe this is happening in 2016. How is this possible? How is this possible? I just don't understand that. How this is possible in the year 2016. 500 years ago, things happened, and now it's happening again. I'm just going to be frank. We're doing it again. We're allowing it to happen again, and our government's doing it again. Wow. All right. All right. I'm going to let you guys go. And thank you for tuning in to Iggy Garcia Live. And I'll talk to you guys on tomorrow's show. I love you guys. When I say I love you guys, I really mean that. I really truly mean that when I say that. Because, we're all in this together. Even the ones that don't agree with us and the ones that disagree with us, we're all in this together. We're all on this planet together. We're all going to go through the feelings, the emotions, and suffering together. And these indigenous people really need our help. And however we can help, be creative, be smart. There's other people who are more creative than me. Get creative. This is an opportunity to do some amazing, magical work. And so, go out there and be the magic, create, help. And if you don't help, it's okay. But if you can, help. Help. Love you guys. Be well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Just know that as you are driving your car, warming your house, there are people who are fighting for the water drink. There are people who are freezing night in their tents in North Dakota to protect their families, protect their friends, protect their ancestral futures. All right, not to shame or parent anybody. It's just the reality that people I was one of those people for 4 days, 4 little measly days. But in 4 little days, my mind has just something moved here. There have been winters coming, sub-zero weathers. Peace and love. Ho'oponopono. I love you. Be well, guys. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you.